Awesome to have you guys all on today for International Women's Day. We're so excited to get everyone together for such an important event. So for this year, the theme is Break the Bias. Really great theme that we're going to be talking about today. So for those who don't know, the first International Women's Day actually occurred in 1911. And it's the day to celebrate how far we have come, but also recognise what more we can do towards gender equality. So to start off the event, I'd like to pose a riddle for you. Everyone ready and listening closely for this riddle. So, a father is about to bring his son to a job interview where he's applying for a position at a large stockbroker's company in the city. Just as they arrive at the company's parking lot, the son's phone rings. He looks at his father, who says, "Go ahead, answer it." The caller is the trading company's CEO, who says, "Good luck, son, you've got this." The son ends the call and once again looks at his father, who is still next to him in their car. How is this possible?
Well, it's possible because the CEO is his mother.
Very well done. Did anyone else have any other thoughts? Anything that came to mind? Lady boss. I love that. That is really, really good and really well done. I feel a few of you, seen that in the comments as well. So this riddle was an experiment done by a company called Mindspace. They asked 22 people this riddle and none of them got it. So does this pose the question that gender equality in the workplace is still an issue? I'm so happy to see that we have a very progressive company, and Dennis being one of them is very aware there can be a female CEO, and that's awesome. We have a lot of strong female leaders at InfoTrack. But is this still an issue? A topic that we should be talking about today, because unfortunately some people do have the instinct that I think of a CEO and you think of a male. I have a quick poll now for you that I'd love to get you guys to do. So I'm going to launch it now if everyone can answer. The poll is: men apply for a job when they meet 60% of the qualifications. What do you think the statistic is for women? Chuck in your votes now, what you think it might be. See the answers pouring in. Awesome to see. Give it a few more. Got 100 votes in now. Lovely. Anyone want to call out what they think it might be?
90%?
90%? Yeah.
100.
All right. Let's look. Most common answer was 90. The answer is actually 100. Someone said that, and they're 100% right. Why is that? Why is that the case? Why do men apply for jobs when they feel they're 60% qualified and women only at 100? A lot of you picked 90, and I really wish that was the case. I wish it was 60. Why is that the case? Today, we just want to ask some questions to other panelists we have from within our amazing leadership team around questions that might be thought-provoking for all of you. Is this still an issue? And what can we do, everyone here on this call, to promote towards gender equality in the workplace, beyond the workplace, in our personal lives, and beyond for our kids that are growing up in this? All right, so I'm going to pass on to Chelsea, who's going to introduce the amazing panelists that we have today. They're going to be answering some questions that we have posed to them. Over to Chelsea.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. I'm pleased to introduce the members of our panel who, like Amy said, will share with us their insights from their experiences as women, fathers, leaders, and as we explore what International Women's Day means to them and what they're going to do to #break the bias. So we have Penny Young, our National Relationship and Support Manager, who sits in major accounts. Penny, can you say hello?
Hi, everyone.
We have Rachel Cottrell, our Head of Operations in the Operations team. Rach.
Hi, everyone.
We have Nikki Shuri, our Development Team Leader in AU Dev.
Guys.
We have Chantel, our Head of Banking and Corporate Accounts and Sales in the Banking and Corporate team.
Hi, everyone.
And we have Tristan Poole, who is our Corporate Team Leader, also in the Banking and Corporate team.
Hey, guys.
Awesome. So we'll jump straight into some questions. Penny, you can be up first. I would love to hear what International Women's Day means to you.
International Women's Day means that it gives us time to actually think and reflect on what we have achieved and what we still need to achieve. We should be doing this every day, but it does give us a day to really focus on it and sort of have these types of conversations and forums to actually speak and listen to other people, what they're achieving, what they want to achieve, and also to share that and to share and rejoice in what has happened. I've been, in the workforce and since the 80s, and it's been huge, but there's still a lot to go. So I think it's really, really important day for us to reflect.
Of course. Rachel, what are your thoughts?
Well, it's an opportunity to recognise the contribution that women everywhere make in the workforce and also at home to allow them and their families to be successful. It's also a great opportunity to just stop and think about the role of women globally in all roles. I worked in STEM for a long time, and for those that don't know what that is, science, technology, engineering and mathematics, the tech side. But thinking about the contribution that women get to make in STEM, and for me it's about how we can help continue to grow and encourage more women to make a contribution in this space. Without days like today to raise a spotlight on it, STEM is, I would say, largely male dominated, and it's easy to lose sight of. So, yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Nikki, is there a female leader that you look up to, and what characteristics do you think that they possess?
So to be honest, I feel like I look at women within my life that I know and that I love, as the people that I get inspired from. So cliche and cheesy answer, but my mom. She's a stay-at-home mom, but she's always, inspired me to have a career, be independent, whether it's like, taking classes so she can help with my homework or holding my hand when I'm trying to submit an assignment. She's like, and I guess her ability to be strong, to be caring, and to tolerate me. That's her strong points. She's still very surprised that I have the brains to work in InfoTrack when I can't even make rice. So, yeah.
Amazing. Tristan, is there a female leader that you look up to?
Yeah, heaps. But when you ask that question, probably the first person that comes to mind is actually Julia Gillard. She became Prime Minister when I was in uni and sort of studying and more involved with politics. And if you're talking about biases, it's not that long ago, but if you look back at what she had to deal with, there's some really, really horrible sort of, I think, ugly stuff that came out. Along with good stuff, she had lots of achievements, but just really sort of difficult things that she had to face. And on a personal level as well, she lost her father while she was in power. And I've always really admired just how resilient she was and how strong she was. She seemed to take that all in her stride, and she seemed to not really mind or just be able to sort of push on and do what needed to be done or what she felt needed to be done in the face of all that criticism. And a lot of people talk about, she had this famous speech, the Misogyny Speech, and it was just a month or so after her father had died, and some horrible things were said about her. I just couldn't imagine being so composed and articulate in a moment like that. And I think that, when I look at that sort of stuff, it blows me away. I couldn't imagine not losing my mind in a situation like that. I think, a really impressive lady.
Yeah, wow, definitely. Chantel, do you feel like a male in the same role as you has faced some of the same obstacles as you may have had to get to where you are?
I think I think the biggest one is as working parents. I think when you have small children, you'll find that people start to try and give what they consider to be a consideration and maybe not consider you for opportunities that they would have in the past. I think that for me, I really noticed that after I had kids, and that same consideration wasn't given to my husband. So no one sort of said, well, you know, he can't work on this project because he's got young children. There's an assumption that I'm going to be the primary carer. So I think that's an obstacle for working mums.
Yeah, definitely. Tristan, what are some personality traits that you feel like society doesn't expect from women? And when you see women around you that embody those personality traits, what reactions do you see that they receive?
Yeah, so something that comes to mind is perhaps assertiveness. One thing that I've noticed is, I'll give you an example. If we're sometimes chasing a client for bills that they haven't paid, and I'll talk to Mon in finance, and she'll say, oh, like, this guy's giving me grief every single time I call him and tell him he needs to pay his bills. And I'll call and say, and I'm far from the most assertive person, but I'll call and say, hey, mate, you need to pay your bills. Oh, yeah, of course, absolutely. And I'm so sorry that they're late. And, you know, and we'll circle back and talk about this client. And it's like we're talking about two different people. And it's just something like that product of, I don't know what it is, maybe a male voice or something on the other end of the line. You just get a completely different person in some cases. And so I think sometimes that assertiveness, and I've seen this from my wife as well, she's sort of related a lot of stuff that she's had to deal with. You know, she'll often say, I feel like I need to almost bring it to a conflict before someone will hear me and listen to me. And you know, sometimes like my male colleagues, they can just tell people what they want. They can just say it in a direct manner, and that assertiveness is much better received. So that's the first thing that comes to mind for me.
Yeah, wow. Chantal, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, probably fairly similar. I think I worked with a CEO that a few on the calls probably worked with, a woman CEO in the past who, she was very confident. Everyone knew that she was the leader in the room, but I think the feedback behind her back was that she was aggressive. They didn't see it as confidence. And I think that if a man demonstrates that, it's seen sometimes as great leadership, not aggression. So I've definitely noticed that as well.
Yeah, definitely. Penny, do you think that female leaders need to adapt their approach to be respected?
Look, I think there's two parts of that. I think you always need to be yourself. I don't think you should change that, whoever you are. But I do think you need to change put it out there, put out that, you know, you expect this, to be treated the same as anyone else in the room, every other individual. And I think you need to sort of put that out in your attitude, the way you carry yourself, the way you treat others as well. So not necessarily change, but just have, like Chantal said, confidence, I think is the thing, and just command that I'm the same as anyone else in that room.
Yeah, definitely. Chantal, what was your perspective on that?
Not always. It depends on the person. I don't feel it as much anymore, but I think as a leader and a woman in my late 20s and early 30s, I found it difficult to deal with men who are over 50. You know, I had to spend a lot more time with them to get their buy-in, for them to trust me as a leader, which I did a lot of. So I don't think it's always the case, but I think when there's an age gap as well as the gender gap, it can be difficult.
Nikki, how has being a woman in tech changed over the last few years?
So I was one of two women in my course in uni in my year. I was also the only female dev in a previous company. I have heard people say that, you know, it's a logic-driven industry and women are way too emotional, or they can't think rationally, and you know, it's weird, but it's an incredibly male-dominated industry. Like Rach said, you know, with the STEM industry, it's quite male-driven, and it's weird because a lot of the programming is just about common sense, and that's kind of a quality that's completely unbiased of gender. But today in InfoTrack, like we can see, we've got over 15 female devs who are ranging from our head of dev, development managers, our team leads, amazing devs, QAs. we're different people, different ages, different backgrounds. We have kids, some people don't, some have pets, some have Netflix. I still did have to scroll through a lot of names to count the number of females, but we are definitely getting there, and that feels really great. So I think we are definitely on the right path.
Yeah, for sure. At the start of this session, Amy asked you to all answer a poll, and the results that we found from that was that men apply for a job when they only meet 60% of qualifications, but women apply if they only meet 100% of qualifications for that role. Rach, I'd love to know, why do you think this is, and how could we prevent this in future generations?
I'd say we hold ourselves back. It's a lack of confidence in ourselves and our abilities, sometimes through no fault of our own. It's either, sometimes how you're raised or society in general. Women are raised to sometimes be more supportive, and that translates to women not going after what they want or second guessing themselves. On balance, I would say, as a generalization, more men are overconfident in their abilities to succeed in a role, whereas women are a little underconfident or hesitant in their abilities. Men generally take a swing at things, and women are more likely to hold themselves back or more reluctant to put themselves into roles where that success is, just out of reach.
Yeah. Tristan, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess in my experience, mostly looking at my wife's career, I think it's quite well documented that, as Chantel pointed out, a lot of the time, if you look at, what we expect from women as mothers and as doing housework, I think it's, there's been a lot of research that they typically do more of the housework, more of the caring. If there's somebody that takes care of an elderly person in your family, statistically, it's probably a woman. And my wife's working really hard at the moment. Things are really busy at her work, so she's working really long hours. And when I say to her, hey, what can I do? She'll say, can you do like a lot of the kid stuff? Can you, take care of this? Can you remember to clean the bathrooms for once in your life? She'll sort of say all that sort of stuff that frees me up, and I can just focus on work right now. And I imagine, I don't know, but I imagine that if you were a woman who is subject to responsibility outside of work that you can't let go of, you're doing more mothering, or you're taking care of an elderly family member, or whatever the case is, you might look at a stretch role or a job that on paper you're not fully qualified for and think, I'm great at this role, but I would be great for this role, but like, what a luxury to focus on my career for 6 months or 12 months. Like, wouldn't that be fantastic? So, and I've seen that in my family with my mother and others that, gave up opportunities in their career on behalf of me or people like that. So that would be my answer to that question.
Yeah, definitely. And how do you actively look for ways to break the bias in our workplace? Tristan.
Me again. Okay, cool. I guess maybe start with yourself. That would be my answer. I think sometimes, the thing with biases is that you're not aware of them, that they're unconscious. So yeah, just taking a moment to pause and reflect, something that you said or a way that you go about things. You never know when you're missing something or you've got a blind spot.
Yeah. Rach, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, acknowledge that bias exists, conscious and unconscious. People believe in meritocracy, where people tend to reward behaviours that are as a reflection of their own behaviour. And then unless you acknowledge that this exists, it's hard to break the back of. If you're asking for a suggestion, the easiest one to put in place is probably a quota in the recruitment process and making a commitment to that. Also, where it's practical during an interview process, to interview equal number of men and women for the same role.
Yeah, definitely. Penny, as a leader, how do you want to inspire the upcoming generation?
I think we keep having these conversations, not just on International Women's Day, but we keep having these conversations, keep encouraging the next generations, and also have the conversations with the previous generations. I've got a dad in his 80s that is quite set in his ways of what he thought women should be and how it was when he was growing up. And have those conversations, and he understands the way the world is changing and how he can be part of those. to encourage his granddaughters and his great-granddaughter and grandsons, because it's not just about women, it's about men, and like Tristan's been part of this conversation and really having some insightful things to say. It's having that across the board. It's not just all about what women are going to change, it's how men are going to change, and the adaptation of how that affects the men in the world as well. It's really important to keep going. I think back to where I came from when I first started work and what it looked like to what it looks like now. It's 30 years, and I hope in 30 years we're maybe not having as many of these conversations because they've changed, because everything's changed, and that's up to us right now.
Yeah. Rach, how did you want to inspire the upcoming generation?
Well, first of all, I'm here today speaking in front of all of you, and I am well and truly out of my comfort zone, if you can't tell. I don't enjoy public speaking, but it's important for me to do this. So I'm able to, exhibit these role models and role model these behaviours. It's about stretching myself and showing others, they can do it too. So being a role model and leading by example.
Yeah, amazing. Proud of you. Nikki, can you give us an example of how you've seen equality in the workplace shift?
So previously in one of the companies that I worked in, I noticed a pattern in which I saw that women who were going away on maternity leaves, you would get replacements to backfill their positions, and when they would come back, within a few months of them coming back, they would be made redundant. And when I realized that, it was, and I still remember where I was like, it's not something that directly affects me. Like I'm still having just food babies, right? So it's not something that I'm planning for, but it's just the impact of realizing that that's happening, and that consciously, unconsciously, people are getting pushed out of their roles or their jobs because of something that they're choosing to do, a choice that a man would never have to make, a decision that they would never have to face. But that shift does exist, because when I came and joined InfoTrack, I didn't get to meet the head of dev, who was Ira at that time. And that was because for the first few months, she was away on maternity leave. And when she came back, her job was there. She stayed with us many, many years, and her need was still there. She was equally as important as she went when she went away. So, and I've seen that for many other women here in InfoTrack. It doesn't affect that the fact that they've taken that leave, that they can come back and they still have their role waiting for them. And I think that's really cool with a good fix.
Yeah, definitely. Penny, what's your experience on seeing the equality in the workplace shift?
Look, it's been a really big change for me. Like we kept talking about back in the 80s, it was the only female boss you sort of really saw in the legal industry was very few. Most of them were lawyers were males. So for me, probably the first sort of female one was on TV. It was Alexis Carrington, with the padded shoulders and all that sort of thing, because you didn't really see it generally in the legal industry. Now it's just so common. We've got legal firms having CEOs that are females. Look at us alone, so many great female leaders here. It's been a huge shift. There's still a long way to go, but it's been absolutely huge in these last 30 odd years that we've seen these changes, and I think in the next one, with us driving all this, we'll be seeing even more.
Yeah. And Chantel, carrying on from this, what do you think the conversation around equality will be like in 20 years, 50 years?
I think in 50 years, we hope it almost is non-existent, because, in 50 years' time, the generations don't even acknowledge there is a gap. But in 20 years, I think someone said it before, the change needs to start now. I've got 2 young boys, and, my husband and I both work full time, but who does most of the cooking and cleaning? It's me. But I've got to change that, to change the behaviours of how the men that I want them to be, and what I want them to expect of the women in their lives. So I think in 20 years we can make changes. The next shift, like Penny said, we've made a big change from the 80s to now. So, not that was 20 years ago, gosh. But, I think we can make a shift, and then hopefully in 50 years there is no conversation to be had.
Yeah. Nikki, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I completely echo what Chantal said there. Like, I also hope that we don't need to have this conversation in 20 years even. Hopefully, like, there'll be nobody asking, oh, why is there no International Men's Day? Women won't be asked, like, how they balance their family and their career. Like, why just women? I don't think we are looking for equality. I don't think anybody's looking for equality. We're all very different people. We can't be equal, right? But it's equal opportunity. Everybody should have the right to the same things. And like, when I was thinking about this question, the thing that was coming to my mind about myself was that I'm not in tech because I'm an Indian, right? I'm not emotional because I'm a woman. I'm not shy because I'm a nerd. Like, I'm all of these things. I'm like a sum of all these parts. And that just, like, there's no way that you can say, I am like other women or I'm not like other women, because every woman is individual. And in 20 years, what I'm hoping is that everybody is recognized, every woman feels defined by their own individuality and not just by their gender.
Yeah. Guys, like, we've had some really good, everything that you guys have said today is amazing. Your experiences, it's great to talk about, but I'd love to pass to the floor now. Is there anyone watching that would love to share something that they've experienced, or how International Women's Day, what that means to them? Is there anyone that would like to put their hand up and say a few things?
I'll go. For me personally, International Women's Day is something that I deeply care about, and I've only just joined InfoTrack a few weeks ago, and something that I've really recognised within the company is the amount of women who are in leadership positions, and I think that's very admirable and something that I really care about.
Yeah, perfect. Is there any questions that we've got that anyone would like to ask to one of our panelists? Or you could share an experience, doesn't have to be a question.
So I'd like to share something. So I guess, more importance should be given to women who would like to return to work, because I've witnessed that personally. My wife decided to take a break for 3 years after having her kid, and to take care of her kid. And that is a decision that she took, which I completely support. But when she wanted to get back to to her job back, so she applied to like 52 jobs in Australia, in Sydney, and any clue as to how many even came forward to probably just give her a chance for an interview? Any guesses? The answer is 4. So out of 52, only four people came forward to probably just agree to meet with her to probably discuss, and she got through one of them. And so, I feel that more importance should be given to probably people who want to return to work, especially after like maternity break, and who wants to, do something, because it is not a choice, or it is their choice to probably just take a break from work. And I feel that they shouldn't be probably treated differently because of that, and equal opportunity should exist everywhere. And that's something that I wanted to share.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that, AJ, and thank you as well, Charlotte, for sharing your thoughts on International Women's Day. Is there anyone else that would like to speak up and share their experiences, or ask a panelist a question?
I wouldn't mind.
Chelsea.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, you go.
No, you go, mate.
Oh, I was just going to say thank you. It's been awesome listening in this morning. I feel in some ways I was very lucky. My first job in the workplace, I had a female leader, I guess, and manager, and she was fantastic. And that was in a very male-dominated environment. I used to work at the London Stock Exchange in financial trading, and in the late 90s, it was quite male-dominated. And she was an amazing lady and taught me a lot of things that I still have taken on board today. it's so pleasing to hear people talk about InfoTrack and how they're speaking about InfoTrack, and I feel we do a lot of things very well, but the gender bias is something I don't think we tolerate at InfoTrack. We make sure that everyone is given a fair opportunity, their gender, their culture, their heritage, and that's really important. Unfortunately, and I go to quite a lot of client visits, I know a number of us do out there, my observation is still I see this in our client base, and being the legal fraternity, maybe that's something to do with it. And someone mentioned about the age and where lawyers traditionally were males. My question, I guess, to females on the call is, how do you think as a male we should, I guess, address that if we do see a bias? And whether that's, as AJ said, about someone returning to work and that opportunity, or with a client. And I guess, is there any advice that we could be given in that situation?
Do any of our panelists want to answer Lee's question?
I think the client part is a bit of a tricky one, being a client, to address that, but definitely where you can and where the opportunity arises, I think, having those conversations, and particularly I think sometimes male to male, like Christian was saying, sometimes goes a lot further. So, having a conversation with, your people that you see that are displaying bias, or just in general with your teams and things like that, just making sure that you're addressing any of those things that you see come up, just even in general conversation of how things that you've seen or experienced, and how you've dealt with it, to share with others, so when they have other situations they can deal with it. Clients are a bit of a tricky one though, Lee. I'm not quite sure how to tackle that one.
Yeah, I think it is, Penny, and I mean, what I've tried
I've got
to
a good
do...
answer for that one, Lee.
I'll go on, Ebs.
If you're in a client meeting with someone and you have the ability, bounce the question back. So like if you and I were going to Hopwood Gannon, they're great, they wouldn't do this. But if I have the ability to answer the question, let the woman in the room do it. If that's considered her role and they tend to be ignoring you, that's the thing you can do in the moment.
That's great advice, Ebs. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Lee, Penny, and Evs for sharing that. Nathan, you had something you wanted to share?
Basically, what I wanted to say is, I suppose it's up to us men to also step up and actually help as well. See, my wife is, of course, circling back to the whole confidence thing, applying for jobs, going back to, it looks at job descriptions and goes, I can't do that, I can't do that. Whereas if it was me, I would just apply for it and I know I can learn it. It's just that confidence thing as well, just going in. So as men, and what we need to do is support them and say, hey, it's not that big a deal. It looks like that on paper, but once you get onto it, if I can do it, you can do it as well. There's no difference there. And also leading by example, not just for my wife as well, it's also for our kids. My daughter, I've got 2 daughters myself, and just teaching them that we are equals, and not letting, I suppose, bring them up with confidence to go for their dreams, what they want to achieve in life. Their job's not just to look after their kids when they grow up and be a mum and all that. I mean, we all take equal share in this. I come from a cultural background where it's very male dominant, I suppose. And coming from that background, I've got to say, it's up to us men. We need to make that change before our women can step up as well. We need to do it together. And that's me over and out.
Thank you. Thanks, Nathan. I think it's so great that we've got so many people in InfoTrack that are really passionate about bringing up the next generation as equals. I think that's really exciting. It goes to show that we really do have some amazing people in InfoTrack. So definitely a place to feel proud to be a part of. Did anyone else want to share anything?
Sorry, I was just going to ask a question, and I don't know the answer, so I hope I don't rock the boat, but do we have a paternity leave option in InfoTrack?
Yep. Dan, do you want to talk?
Yes, we do. And we also, in our parental leave policy, we've got the option for anyone who's a secondary carer to transition to a primary caregiver within the first 12 months, and they still get the same benefits minus the paternity leave. So that's something we rolled out last year, which I'm really proud of. But definitely would be encouraging anyone who is having a baby to be taking up that, because it's important to bond with your child.
Yeah, I think that's a huge one. I think you know, as a mum at home, you don't really want to go and put your kids in care at 8-9 months. It's too young. But to give the father the opportunity to have a few months at home and let you get back to work a little bit earlier, give them some bonding time. I think, employers that offer that, it really, really helps everyone. It's great.
Thank you, Chantal. James, did you want to share something?
Yeah, I just wanted to just thank everyone for speaking today. It was a really insightful meeting, and just a appreciation post for InfoTrack, and in terms of just raising these things. It's so easy for the native bias to just kind of float unnoticed, and then these are the kind of things that help break that mold, is actually having these conversations, which I think is really good. So
Thank you.
Shout out to Chelsea for excellent emceeing.
Thanks, James. And yeah, thank you to everyone for sharing. I think it's important that we don't let the conversation stop. And I'm so glad that there are so many people that are willing to speak up about their experiences. But I'd love to hand over to Dan now. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Chels. Thanks to all the panel as well for sharing their experiences about what International Women's Day means for you. I think it's really important on days like today to really reflect on how far we've come, not just in the world, but in InfoTrack as well. So if you think back 10 years, we're only 60 people in our whole organisation. Today we're 344, and 45% of those people are female, which is awesome. We were doing some research, and the Workplace Gender Equality Agency says that the average representation of females in leadership positions in Australia is 32%. At InfoTrack, 42% of our leadership team are female, and I think that's really awesome. And I think what that comes down to is a little bit what Lee was saying, is that at InfoTrack, we care about the people we work with, right? And that means we actually care about our diversity, and we're empowering everybody to be the best version of themselves, challenge themselves, grow themselves technically, professionally, and contribute towards that future no matter who you are. So the interesting thing for me personally is, some of you may know I'm going to be a father next month. Oh my God. In previous years, I guess I've been thinking about what I need to do for myself, but now I need to think about what do I need to do to contribute towards breaking the bias, and how can I instill that in my child, which is quite an interesting thing to pose to yourself. So several questions have really been bouncing around my head. Firstly, how am I going to instill the importance of gender equality in my child, and so that they'll have the strength to stand up when they see something that's not right? Also, what world is my child going to grow up in, and are they going to be able to express themselves as a very mixed cultural person of a Spanish, British, Chinese, Australian person? I'm really excited to see who they'll grow up to be, but it does make me think, what do I need to do to instill that confidence in them to be themselves? And finally, what do we need to do to make sure that their generation is going to continue the progress we've made, and give them the courage to be an advocate for change? So that's a lot that's been going around in my head, but I really want to challenge you all to think about, what can you do to break the bias? How are you going to instill some change and continue to build on the change that we've made, so that we can contribute to a world where our differences are valued and celebrated? So as we close today's event, I'd love to get a picture of us striking the cross arm pose, which will be like this. And that's going to show our support to International Women's Day and our commitment to calling out bias and inequality. So if everyone can just hold the pose for a while, Amy will flick through the Zoom screen and then give us the green light when we're finished. Cool. Amy, you ready?
Yeah, camera's on, guys.
Let's do it.
I'm loving the smiles as I scroll past. Awesome work, guys. Thank you so much for doing that. Really appreciate your support today and coming along to this event.